Have you ever been scrolling through Instagram and got an ad that sounds way too good to be true? Maybe it was a $20 PDF on how to make 10K a month with no effort. Maybe it was a new AI product that will revolutionize your business. If you're like me, you probably thought, nobody's falling for this stuff anymore, right? Wrong. If I had a buzzer, I'd press it right now, I'd slam it down. Mega wrong. People, and by people I mean we, myself included, fall for it all the time. But here's the kicker, and quite frankly what keeps me up at night sometimes. We marketers are the ones selling these ideas. Welcome to the Machine Marketing Podcast. I'm Ernesto, and today we're asking a question that should make you a little uncomfortable if you're in the digital marketing space. If marketing is about building trust, how do we justify selling speculation? Because that is what we're doing. Products and services have taken a back seat for stories about what could happen. And when those stories end up being more compelling than the reality behind them, I say we have an ethics problem. Let's talk about that. Before we get into the real nitty-gritty of things, let's take a deep breath here and establish what we're actually talking about. Taking a breath. So, because if I did my job right, you may be thinking, well, hang on, whoa, hang on. What are you talking about? After the intro. See, I believe marketing has always been about persuasion, which you probably believe that too. We all know this. It's nothing new. Okay, but there is a difference between persuading someone that our product meets their needs and persuading them to buy the product just because of perceived hype, speculation, or just good old FOMO around it, right? The fear of missing out. See, this matters because trust is our most valued possession as marketers. One could even call it the currency of marketing. Because if people don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you long term. Sure, you might win over the odd impulse buy here or there, but it's likely they're not going to come back. Or if a competitor catches their eye, they're not going to have a reason to stick with you. And I honestly doubt they'll recommend you to anyone. So we effectively shoot ourselves in the foot by prioritizing short-term hype over long-term trust. But that in and of itself is not inherently unethical. It's more misplaced priorities than anything, but it is a slippery slope nonetheless. Here's a paradox to think about though. Businesses choose hype cycles because they do work in the moment. I mean, people got rich in the dot-com bubble. They also got rich in the whole cryptocurrency, Web3, NFT rush. And right now, people are getting rich off of speculative AI investments, so why would they stop? My reason for stopping is that there's an inevitable, yes, I'm claiming inevitable, bubble pop. I claim that if there is a bubble, it will pop. And when it does, someone gets left holding the bag. And in this case, the bag is blame. But the thing is, who do people end up blaming? It's never just the businesses. It ends up being the industry, the entire ecosystem behind it, which in turn includes us, okay? The marketers who, in other people's eyes, hyped it up. We're the ones who made people trust in this idea in the first place, right? Without us, there would be no trust, so it's all our fault. And it's honestly probably the reason why so many people think of marketing and honestly immediately think of Matilda's dad putting sawdust in cars, which, is that more of a salesman? Probably. But then you have, the ever so sleazy but kind of charming at times Don Draper, or in the real world you have people like Elizabeth Holmes, who, was she a marketer? No. Could she have been? Probably. I mean, she got me to believe in Theranos, so maybe she should have been a marketer, but, she's in jail now, so don't be like her. But I think a lot of people think marketing, think persuasion, and they think that, the negative side of it. But all that said, why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep choosing the hype cycle if people are going to end up thinking we're just another Elizabeth Holmes selling Theranos? And what would it look like if we didn't do that, right? If we didn't embrace the hype. And in this case, we, if I ever say we, just think we, the marketers. Or honestly, with some of these things, it could be society as a whole. But before we get really any deeper, I want to do a quick word from today's totally not fake sponsor, Hype AI. Hype AI is the revolutionary AI-powered marketing automation tool that uses machine learning to generate ad copy that converts. Get campaigns live in minutes. Experience? None needed. ROI? 100,000 times minimum. 100,000x minimum. Hype AI, because your competitors are already using it. Results not typical. Individual results may vary. Hype AI is currently in beta and has not been tested at scale in any real environments. So, if you didn't realize it already, that was a fake ad to hopefully prove my point and make a little joke while I'm at it, but it tried to hit every speculative marketing note that I could think of, right? You have phrases like revolutionary, no experience needed, competitors already using it, 100,000x your ROI, and then in a tiny disclaimer, the actual truth, right? And that was just me being nice. We don't really get those these days that I see. Let's get back to things and start off with going back to the dot-com bubble. Because to me, it's the OG modern day hype cycle. And not to sound like your grandparents here, but it does make me wonder, maybe the internet really was the root of all of our problems today. But yeah, picture this, okay? Late 1990s, Pokemon Red just came out. Y2K was on the near horizon. And the internet was this brand new thing. Companies could literally put .com after their name and see massive spikes in their stock price. Imagine that. Imagine before you had to do all these things, you had to have board meetings and had to do ads, and then suddenly you could just put .com after your name and see stock price rise. Insane. Pets.com was one of the prime examples of this. I had to double check this, but they really were just a pet store, right? They had pet supplies and they took it and sold it online. But there wasn't really a business model behind it. There was no thought of how do we scale this? What are we going to do? It was just this promise of disrupting the pet supply industry, right? We're going to get out there. We're going to put .com. We're going to be pets.com. We're going to get it. The idea was there, okay? And it promised disruption. We're shipping stuff straight to your door from the internet. And marketers, well, we help sell that promise. We, they, I'm never sure if I should use they or we when we're talking about the past, but whatever. I might flip-flop. I'm a human. But they ran ads showing, I think there was this one ad that they had like a sock puppet. That was kind of funny. But the idea was that, same thing you would see with Petco, whatever. Pets living your best life. Pet food delivered by a reliable service. With a simple narrative, right? We're embracing the future because the future is here. You can buy anything online, so why should pet supplies be any different? Why wait? Why wait for someone else to do this? Let's just do it. And the bubble burst. Businesses collapsed. It was brutal. Investors lost billions of dollars. And our dear old pets.com, well, they shut down in 2000. Which honestly makes me think maybe Y2K really did happen. Its scope was limited to online pet delivery, pet supply delivery. Okay, that would be very interesting. Very interesting theory. But here is why that's interesting for us today as digital marketers. See, the people who built pets.com, I think they genuinely believed in the vision. As far as we know, they weren't intentionally defrauding anyone. They were selling pet supplies. But they were also selling a future that just didn't exist yet. They, along with tons of other companies and businesses that jumped onto the .com hype cycle, right? But they sold that future that didn't exist. They sold it with such confidence that people invested life savings into it. And yes, today we do have Amazon selling stuff online. It's an online store. But Amazon is the exception, not the rule. And that is the danger. If you market speculation confidently enough, you'll convince people that it's certainty, that it's no longer speculation, and that Amazons are not the exception. No, they're the rule. That every company will be Amazon instead of Amazon being this like one-off exception, and therefore creating this inevitability in people's minds when really it's this like outlier. But as we know, outliers, brightest stars are most likely to capture people's attention. So the outliers stand out. That said, let's go ahead and hit the fast forward button a little. In 2017, Bitcoin was worth $5,000. One Bitcoin. By December of that year, it reached $20,000. Everyone wanted in. And when everyone wants in on something, you can bet marketing is going to be right there. Frothing at the mouth. When there is hype that is too good to pass up, marketing departments are right there. Probably because someone higher up is just telling them to be there, but they're right there. And at that time being, let's say, 2017 through 2022, we'll stop around there. That message being pushed out seemed pretty clear, right? Cryptocurrencies, Web3 technologies, and NFTs were the future of money and decentralization of the internet. If you don't get in now, you're going to regret it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get in on the ground floor. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, I think we really saw things peak. People were stuck at home with nothing to really spend their money on, and this crypto thing seemed to be working out for people, seemed to be pretty hyped up. It was pretty real. And then the other aspect of this was that governments and government agencies were a bit occupied with, the pandemic. There was other things happening. They didn't really want to pay attention or care about this whole internet money stuff. There was a few times they poked their head in, but there was bigger fish to fry, being the pandemic. Side note, during that time, I think it was around that time, my favorite photography blog that I had been reading since like high school deleted all their photography content, all of it. I thought maybe they just archived it or I tried finding the page. They deleted it, and they turned into a Bitcoin blog about why you should be bullish on Bitcoin. It truly was a wild time, and it honestly made me contemplate if we really were in an apocalypse. It was that moment. That was the moment that I was like, man, this might be an apocalypse. But yeah, anyways, can you guess what happened with the whole cryptocurrency stuff? Well, the market crashed. Bitcoin was supposed to hit 100,000 by the end of the year for like 5 years, and it didn't. And people ended up losing their savings. A new subculture emerged within cryptocurrencies, these hold on for dear lifers, these hodlers, HODLERS. HODL is the acronym. And the news cycles that seem to be promoting the hype around AI, well, suddenly they just kind of threw their arms up and shrugged, and we're like, that was interesting. Let's move on to the next thing, as news does. Here's the kicker for this one, though. Okay, many of the people marketing this stuff, coins in particular, I think they knew it was speculative. There was no use case for Bitcoin. Bitcoin had never been adopted, and it was the speculation that Bitcoin could be adopted, that it would be adopted mainstream, and that you would make this bunch of money. It was all speculation. There was no real basis in any of it. And they knew that it was unlikely or not possible. It could be possible that a lot of the stuff they were promoting wouldn't be around in a year. They're just going along for the ride. I mean, it got to the point where Kim Kardashian got involved in all this stuff. She was charged by the SEC. SEC? It always sounds like I'm saying SCC. The SEC for promoting crypto investments without disclosing she was actually getting paid to do that. Which, if you're in marketing, if you're a marketer like me, you know that's a no-no. You know this isn't some like novel idea. You have to disclose paid advertisements. Obviously, people are not going to do that sometimes. People are going to be unethical and break laws, but you should know you don't do that. So the fact that this company kind of let her do that is pretty mind-boggling to me. Like, why did nobody double check? Or why did that get approved? But the point is, speculation at that time was getting sold as if it were sound investment advice into the future, not just financials, but like the future itself. Crypto technology was the future. You got to get in on this, man. And to me, that makes the ethical failure clear. A lot of people, I think, knew better, but there was an opportunity and they did it anyways. Because, hey, if the money is real, who cares if the idea isn't right? The money behind cryptocurrency was real. People were putting real money. It didn't matter if the company wasn't real. It didn't matter if the crypto coin wasn't real. People's money was real. And also, it seems like the government's busy doing other stuff so it can kind of get away with things. And they did for a while. And then once the pandemic kind of subsided, government kind of started poking their head in and a lot of people got into trouble. So that brings us today to today's AI moments. And today being, I guess, ChatGPT came out in 2022. So let's say crypto was 2017 to 2021, and we'll start up AI with 2022. Now, quick disclaimer here. I want to be clear on things and not be a part of the problem I'm saying there is. I'm not trying to like point out a problem and then become a part of that exact problem. So I can't definitively say at this moment AI is a bubble, because I'm only speculating that it is based off of historical similarities of other bubbles in the tech industry, right? And that said, some diehard crypto holders, some hodlers, well, they might argue with me that the bubble popped on that. It never popped, or there was never a bubble. But I do maintain my position. I mean, go check the current prices for your favorite NFT, okay? All right, with that out the way, let's get back to things. To me, it seems like, I hate generalizing, but it seems like every business today is pivoting to AI, which it's, that statement alone, I don't understand it. Like, pivoting to AI could mean a million things, right? It could mean replacing our workforce. It could mean integrating it. It could mean replacing our services with some kind of AI. It could mean a million different things. But it seems like most businesses are trying to get AI in their messaging in some way, which means every marketing department of those businesses is trying to find a way to talk about AI. And listen, I am a computer science major. My undergrad was computer science. Automation and real artificial intelligence, I'm talking about like the Watsons, the IBM, supercomputers. Those are transformative technologies. Those are crazy. And I think one day we will get to some like crazy Matrix level artificial intelligence stuff. Okay, I'm not denying any of that, but I'm talking about marketing right now. And the marketing around AI today, I think it's a lot of speculation, a lot of hype that's been wrapped up into this nice, pretty tech veneer. If you are at all kind of in the tech world, you know how tech has this veneer of being the future, right? If tech is seen as the future, and therefore people will just kind of buy into it because it's like, it's the future, it's tech. But as a chronically online person, and listen, being that way is not my fault. Okay, I have to do it for research. It's my job. I have to be online, man. I have to be scrolling. I have to. Okay, but being online as much as I am, I've seen pretty wild claims like AI will 100% 10x your productivity, your business's productivity, 10x productivity. Insert generic name here, .ai will replace your entire customer service team, your entire marketing team. Your marketing funnel? No, just have whatever .ai do it for you. Claude just killed, insert, honestly, literally any software or really anything you do. Claude killed it. You do graphic design? Claude killed it. Do you use Adobe? No, you don't, because Claude killed it. But a little note on that last one. I don't think Claude's killed anything yet. I mean, Amazon killed diapers.com. Like they bled them out of business. That is killing. Okay? Until Anthropic or OpenAI bleeds some other company out of business, I don't think we should be screaming bloody murder. But that's just a quick little tangent. Want to just get that out of the way. So, are these claims true? Maybe. But the problem is automation and AI specifically. We're talking a lot about generative AI here. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but a lot of this is generative AI, right? Simplify that. Chatbots, your ChatGPTs, your Claudes, your Geminis, chatbots. Okay, their use cases are very specific, and their context in which they actually work in are also very specific. That is because their real use cases are still being studied. How they can really be used, how they can really be implemented, it's still under a lot of study. It's kind of, I don't know. The companies themselves are, I don't know, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be that, maybe it will take over, maybe it won't. Nobody seems to know. But that turns into a problem because as these companies are like, wow, we're not really sure what it could do. It could do anything. Those claims are being presented as universal truths through marketing. And they're presenting this as if it's an inevitable thing. It's a future that's already here. It has to shape the way we think, shape the way we adopt policies. It's just here. Okay, it is here. We're not sure if it's here, but it is here. So this might be a little spicy, but remember our friend Pets.com? They were one of the cutting edge companies. They were adopting .com. They were adopting the future. They're doing something crazy no one had ever done before. Well, other people were doing it, but they were Pets.com. Okay, they would never fail. Guess what? Now they're just a Wikipedia page. They failed. I told you. 2000 went out of business. But maybe we can blame that on Y2K. My point is that just because companies like OpenAI are here now, showing you the future and their role in it, and the fact that they can bring it to your doorstep, the doorstep being AI, right? You can flip open your laptop and have access to the future. You can have access to AI. Before it was you could have access to the internet. Now you can do whatever you want. Maybe. Just because they can do all that doesn't make them immune to the past. Doesn't make them immune to things that happen in the .com bubble, things that happen in the crypto bubble. And right now, companies all over every industry is having this problem. They're racing to be first in AI. What's mind-boggling to me is that it doesn't seem to matter what industry you're in. You could be in the restaurant industry. You could be in the B2B logistics industry. You're racing to be the first name to have done something wild with AI, which turns into AI companies cutting corners on safety testing for things like biases or just things that could cause harm, right? Kind of like how robots had to be tested before putting in manufacturing warehouses because they could hurt people. They're also making promises they can't keep. They're getting seed funding for ideas that are being packaged as finished products when they're still just ideas. And bringing this back to us, we the marketers are the ones selling this race as progress, not as a race. We're selling it as like, look, progress is happening, when it's just a race. We haven't seen who's won. We haven't seen if it's worth race. It's a race. It's not progress. And I already pointed this out, but this creates a real parallel to the .com bubble. And meaning, I want to reiterate, this creates a hype cycle. We are, I think, in another hype cycle. Because companies are raising billions off of AI promises, not AI capabilities. They're there to an extent, but really, most money is coming from what AI is promised to bring, promised to do, which leads to investors investing in speculation and speculating themselves, right? Who's going to be the best one to invest in, et cetera, et cetera. And then this leads to now people are starting to ask, hey, this kind of looks like a bubble. When's it going to pop? And when it does pop, who's paying the price this time? I don't want to be the one paying the price, because we've seen now twice in the .com and in the crypto bubble, people lost their life savings. So people know in these situations, people lose money. So here's a question that I keep coming back to with all this is how can we as digital marketers break this cycle? And you may be asking, can we? It's impossible. We're just mere digital marketers. I think we can. But I think the first step towards finding an answer is to first understand that ethics aren't separate from good business. Now, I get the whole move fast and break things ideology, but, I really do. I really do get that ideology. I understand it's kind of American industrial progress kind of requires that, right? We move fast and we break things, and that's how we're able to progress faster than most other countries. But I do believe choosing to be ethical doesn't immediately mean put up a bunch of red tape and stop all progress. I think those are two extremes. We don't have to choose one or the other. They can live in harmony. And I think if you're a marketer today trying to build for long-term success, then I am sorry to say, but speculation and hype is a losing strategy. And here's why I think that. So, firstly, trust is built slowly and destroyed quickly. We've heard that probably a million times, and you probably know it to be true. You've probably seen it yourself, how quickly it is to lose a reputation that took years to build up. If you end up running a campaign that ends up not being true, or leads to your company being seen as the reason for other people losing their money, that's going to cost you years of credibility that will take more years to rebuild. Secondly, historically, hype cycles collapse. And when they do, the most aggressively marketed businesses take the biggest hit, right? So when businesses are marketed aggressively, they have an opportunity to kind of be a part of the economy, right? You see this now with the Facebooks, the Googles, the tech industry has marketed so aggressively that they are now embedded into the, I'll start with the American economy, but to an extent global, but very embedded in the American economy. So if one of those companies fails, that's a big problem. The bigger they get, the bigger the hit they take. If Facebook fails, that's not suddenly the news is going to be focused on Facebook, even though that would have a lot of ramifications for other small businesses. Facebook would be the one that gets the biggest hit. But when that happens, those big hits turn into trust being lost in entire industries, which makes sense, because why would you trust an industry that just lost you your job, your life savings, or even your own business? If you intertwined your business with this idea, with this hype, and you ran your business off of it, and now it all fell apart and your business went with it, why would you ever trust the industry again, right? They'd have to work pretty hard to get your trust back. So, thirdly, with all this hype that I'm talking about, what I see is that regulation often is right behind it, right? When hype cycles break or the bubbles burst, regulation is right there, which makes sense. People are like, we need to regulate this. And then obviously when people kind of speak up, governments tend to be a little bit more moved, right? Crypto space now has a little more, maybe still not a lot, of regulation when it comes to marketing and advertising. And it always did. This is the weird thing. Marketing and advertising regulation didn't just go out the window, didn't become deregulated when cryptocurrency happened. I touched on this, but I think it was like a perfect storm of the government being, busy with the pandemic, too busy to really be on top of SEC and FCC stuff. So I think there was that, but there was a lot more regulation towards, making sure crypto stuff isn't promoting fraud. And I believe the same thing will happen with AI if there's a bubble and if it bursts, which means that the companies that were responsible to begin with, right? They chose ethics. I think they will have an advantage when it comes down to who's being compliant and who's not, because that's what the government and regulations are going to care about, right? Who is in compliance, basically. So I'm contending here that choosing to be ethical is the smart choice for the long term. It's not easy though, since, let's be real, this will require a lot of restraint. And if there is one thing I think we hate as marketers, it's being restrained, right? Nobody likes their creative being handcuffed or being told what you can and can't say, or having the legal team come in and say, yep, nope, we can't use this laundry list of words, you can't use them. So I get that. But I honestly, would it be that bad to say something like, here's our vision and what we're building towards, but here's what we cannot promise you yet, instead of just simply defaulting to the future is here, it's now, get on board or get left behind. And I know, nuance doesn't sell as well, but hey, that's why we have copywriters. A good copywriter should know how to sell nuance. I mean, where's the imagination in all this? Instead of selling people our speculation, why not we give people the facts, paint them a picture, but, let them imagine the possibilities of things for themselves. We don't need to tell them, here are all the possibilities. It could possibly happen, because this could possibly happen. Let them sort that out. If we have something that is real and could benefit someone, you don't need to paint a huge fantasy world for them. They should be able to do that themselves, I think. So I think instead of focusing so much on injecting our imagination to someone else's, we should let them have their own. Which kind of brings me to my last point I want to emphasize before closing out is sustainability, right? More importantly, industry-wide sustainability. See, when a hype cycle collapses, the whole industry gets damaged, like I said. Pets.com didn't fail in a vacuum. It was just one of many casualties that led to people overall distrusting .com companies, right? If you're a company that slapped .com on your name, I don't trust you. That was kind of the idea for a while, right? After the crypto bubble popped, people stopped trusting in crypto bros, which by extension meant not trusting companies who were promoting decentralized systems like Web3, like people who were into that sort of thing. Which, by the way, do you remember when Facebook was so invested into the future that the metaverse was that, right? We were going to be living in the metaverse, and they were so invested into it, they literally rebranded to Meta, because I do. And where is the metaverse now? Okay, are we having metaverse meetings yet? I know Mark Zuckerberg wanted that. He tried it. So where are they? Are we having them? I'll try it out, but point is, you get the point, right? Where's the metaverse? And I think if AI marketing continues this way and eventually gets out of control, and if there is a bubble and it does pop, it will lead to massive public disappointment. This is like industry to industry. Like, there is no specific industry that has not adopted AI in some way, right? In terms of messaging, at least. Conversation seems to be everywhere. So this backlash that would happen in a bubble burst wouldn't be limited to those companies that adopted AI or promoted it. Tech as a whole and marketing as a whole, I think, would definitely be given the public stink eye. And when things go south after the burst, well, in comes the regulation, alongside all the skepticism from the public, and on top of the lost trust from all the public. All that will do is just make our jobs even more difficult, as if they weren't difficult enough. Pretty gloomy, but don't worry. All is not lost, okay? As digital marketers, we do have a choice, okay? We can choose to be a part of the problem, adopt hype as truth, race to the next big thing, and focus on short-term gains. Or we could try and be part of the solution, right? We could try and build brands based on trust, push sales that are based in reality, and help the industry as a whole mature. Focus on the long term. And yes, that second option is a lot harder, because I get it. Sometimes it's just a job. It's just our job. You do what you get told to do. Okay? You got bills to pay. I get that. But I don't think that makes it impossible. Just imagine a world where we could be honest about our company, our business, our product, our services, limitations, and actually could resist the pressure, or we actually did resist the pressure to be these hype dealers, right? That doesn't have to be our job description. And again, that is the hard path. But I think it's the path to real sustainable success. So, is it ethical to sell speculation? No, I don't think so. At least not if you care about trust or you care about your industry being healthy long term. And for me, at least, if you want to sleep at night, no, I don't think it's ethical. But removing all that for a second, I don't think it's smart. Just logically, it doesn't make sense, right? Because inherently, hype works when it's in short bursts. We have a short attention span. Okay, so how are you planning to run a business based off of hype for the next 3 to 5 years, when people are going to get over the initial hype? You're going to hype something up, and they're going to want more. They're going to want more. So what are you going to do? You're going to keep feeding them hype, or what are you going to do? Well, to me, the answer is pretty simple. You just build trust. Build trust that we will execute on this hype, that we will give you something worth being hyped up about. Trust is greater than hype. Now, yes, you can use hype to further your trust with people for sure. But that implies you took some time to actually build some trust first. And just like we have a choice, I think, to decide which kind of option we want to do, aid the solution or be a part of the problem, I think that leads to our legacy as digital marketers. Do we want to have our legacy to be, we were the people who hyped up the next bubble right up to the moment it popped? Or do we want to be the people who helped grow our industry sustainably? I want to be a part of the second one, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is here. I'll leave it up to you. And that's all I have for today. But thank you for listening to the Machine Marketing Podcast. As always, I'm Ernesto, your resident yapper, designer, and armchair marketer. So if you have any thoughts on this, think I'm wrong, or if you've maybe experienced this in your own work, reach out, because I'd love to hear from listeners. And once again, thank you again for lending your ears. I'll see you next time, and now let's go out and go build something real.